and I'm in Barley in Hertfordshire to do a walk along Harcamlow Way. I have to walk along the road for about 2.5 miles to Heydon village to join Harcamlow Way. And there's a view of the church at Barley. There's a further view of the church at Barley. There's a view of the Chrishall windmill passed on the way to Heydon village. This is where I left Harcamlow Way when I came to Heydon before, and I did the section to Heydon. Harcamlow Way goes along that track across the road. And as you can see from the sign, this track is also part of the Harcamlow Way, long distance footpath. That's the way ahead. The weather's quite misty in places this morning. The track comes to the corner of a wood on the right. As you can see, it's very misty. From the corner of the wood, Harcamlow Way bears half left along this track, going down into a dip. The sun's trying to break through. Hopefully this mist will clear soon. In the dip, Harcamlow Way crosses this bridge and continues ahead. Mist is slowly lifting. After the bridge, the path is enclosed. Ground conditions have been appalling so far. The mud is incredible. Hope it's not like this all the way. The path comes to this road where it turns right. As you can see by the footpath sign, the concrete footpath sign, we're now in Essex. We've crossed from Cambridgeshire. Heydon's in Cambridgeshire. Barley, where I actually started to link with Harcamlow Way, is in Hertfordshire. So we've already been in 3 counties. There's this interesting water pump beside the road, and there's a footpath ahead which is a continuation of Harcamlow Way, but Harcamlow Way ignores that. It's not Harcamlow Way. Harcamlow Way continues on the road a bit. Now passing this pleasant pond, still on the road. Further along the road, Harcamlow Way turns left along this path with a hedge on the left. The ground doesn't look too bad. We now cross this bridge and head slightly right on the field ahead. The path comes out opposite the Red Cow pub in Chrishall, the village of Chrishall. Harcamlow Way heads up this track by the side of the pub. At the end of the track, we turn left to follow this hedge on the left. If you can discern it in the mist, the path goes across these fields out to a road. Where the path meets the road, there's another one of these water pumps. Harcamlow Way crosses the road and continues along this track. Hedge on the left. The hedge on the right ends very soon. We follow the hedge on the left round to the left. Further on, the path proceeds between these paddocks, and there's an interesting fellow. Harcamlow Way comes to this road and takes the path ahead. The path on the other side of the road in the last clip leads up to Chrishall Church. And there is a view of Chrishall Church. This is looking back for the best view of the church. Looking back the way I've just come. From the church, Harcamlow Way takes this path between fields. It's into the fog, but you can just discern the grassy path. Well, I've got down to the road, but there's no way across a deep ditch to join the road. I can see a footpath sign pointing the way I've come, and it is Harcamlow Way, but there must be, the footbridge must have gone. So I'm going to have to walk round roads to get back to this spot. I've walked around by road to get back to where I should be, and there's the block path. Now Harcamlow Way turns right along that signposted footpath there. And this is the route of the sign path in the last clip. The route of Harcamlow Way away from the main B1039 road where the block footpath is. The path climbs and there's a misty view back the way I've come. There's a view back to Chrishall Church. The metal track ends and the path goes around some buildings and then heads up this path up an ascending ridge. Still very misty though. Come to this round of bushes. The path continues ahead. You can see there's a waymark there. The mist is quite bad still here. The path continues by this narrow stretch of woodland on the right. And that is the path ahead. The path now goes through a belt of woodland. This is ahead, not woodland on the right. There's another stretch of woodland ahead. The path bears to the left through the wood and then continues along the edge of the wood. The wood's end, and we now follow this hedge on the left, heading towards Langley Church. At this point, Harcamlow Way turns left. We don't actually go to Langley Church. Harcamlow Way follows a hedge track, but I've used a field at the side because the hedge track's so wet. The path emerges at Langley Upper Green. We continue along there. We now come to this road where we turn left for about 75 yards to a footpath on the right. And here's the path we take on the right off the road. Down there. The mist is really clearing now. Bit late really. The path continues with the hedge on the left. We now bear left along this path with a ditch and hedge on the left. Weather's nice and clear now. Harcamlow Way now comes to this track which is marked on the map as a Roman road. We turn right up here. Harcamlow Way turns left off the Roman road along this track. Good views from the track. You can look at some views now. The mist is cleared. The track bears to the right. Goes along here with this hedge on the left. The route passes this small lake. We now go up these steps and across the field ahead. And there is the path across the field ahead. At the top of the field, the path turns right with the hedge on the left, and the weather's become quite grey and overcast, and quite windy. Decent views over to my right, and indeed back the way I have come. Now turning left along this fieldside track. Still heading along this fieldside path. we come to this road where we turn right. For the past 3/4 of a mile or so, I've not been on the route of Harcamlow Way as marked on the map, but there are a maze of path diversion signs in the area, and all the way marks directed me this way. Hopefully I'll be back on the official Harcamlow Way route now. Now in Arkesden village, definitely back on the route of Harcamlow Way, and there's a view of the church. Now at the Axe and Compasses pub in Arkesden. There's a nice view of the Axe and Compasses pub. At this fork in the road, we bear left. We now turn left along this footpath up there. Shortly the path becomes a muddy track. The path becomes more open, heading uphill between fields. At this point Harcamlow Way bears left, following that fence. The fence will be on the right. Looking back the way I've come, there are great views, but it's so grey and overcast. Harcamlow Way now proceeds along this grassy path with a hedge on the left. Further on, the path becomes a green lane. The hedged green lane only lasts a short distance and then the path becomes open again. And there are decent views ahead and to the left, but it's pretty grey. The sun is trying to break through again. We now turn left along this bridleway for a short distance. At this path junction, Harcamlow Way turns right, up there to all those trees. Looks quite muddy. The path heads down to go beneath the M11 motorway, and Newport is visible ahead. Now about to go under the M11. This path is excruciatingly muddy. The path the other side of the motorway, very, very wet. Still on Harcamlow Way, heading into Newport along Harcamlow Way, and the path surface has improved. The track becomes a road leading into Newport. Harcamlow Way now heads across this small field. We'll soon be at the main road in Newport. And there's a view of the church at Newport. And there's another view of the church at Newport and the War Memorial. And there's the church. Now in Newport, and the end of today's walk along Harcamlow Way, and indeed the completion of the entire Harcamlow Way, as I've not done the route in sequence, as you know if you've been following the videos. So the whole 140-mile path has now been walked. And now at Newport railway station, and the end of today's walk along Harcamlow Way and the completion of Harcamlow Way.